Karuna Chaitanya Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes, Prabhu, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I'll not take more than 2 seconds here. Give me a moment. Let me just adjust my video. For some reason, I was not able to activate it. Okay, yeah, I can see myself now, which I think everybody can. I can see Divya Prabhu as well. So let me start with the introductions. Hare Krishna, welcome to the Sunday Bhagavatam program, dear devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Today's esteemed speaker is a devotee based in the Bhaktivedanta manner. He's a very, very inspiring devotee, extremely knowledgeable and kind. And in all his classes, he's always preaching about Sankirtan, about Sri Krishna. Like they say, there's a shloka, Vede Ramayane Chaiva, Purane Bharate Tatha, Antve Advaicha Madvaicha, Hari Sarvatra Giyate. So His Grace Divya Prabhu is a disciple of His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, and following in the footsteps of his spiritual master, he took on the service of heading the congregation of book distribution arm of Bhaktivedanta Mana. I think it's about 5 years ago, Prabhu. Please correct me later if you can. Since then, each year the Sankirtan team has been growing from strength to strength. He has perfectly imbibed from his Guru Maharaj the enthusiastic mood for distributing Srila Prabhupada's books far and wide. Introducing monthly Sankirtan festivals, door-to-door book distribution, the Bhadra campaign, corporate distribution, and so many various pipelines. The book distribution scene has taken a new life with more and more congregation members coming on board to assist with this service. Like I said, Prabhu is really, really inspiring. Divya Prabhu is an empowered soul in Srila Prabhupada's service, and despite having a young family with his wife, son, and daughter, and working a busy full-time job, he still manages to dedicate enormous amounts of time in this service of Sankirtan. His wife and children are all devotees, and as a family, they set an example of how to practice Krishna consciousness in Grihastha life. A true servant leader is what his friends and colleagues, his fellow devotees say. I asked some of them to tell me a little bit about Prabhu, and this is something that I've never heard before. A true servant leader who leads by example, and his dedication and enthusiasm is catching. Anyone who associates with him feels straight away his genuine love for Sankirtan and dedication to Guru, Srila Prabhupada, and Krishna. He's well read, very knowledgeable, and an excellent preacher. He started the online chat sessions, the chapter-a-day sessions at the beginning of the lockdown. Hundreds of devotees have benefited from these daily sessions of Bhagavad Gita. Divya Prabhu takes classes as well, and I consider myself really, really fortunate to be part of those classes, Prabhu. This year, the goal for Bhaktivedanta Manor for the Bhadra campaign is to distribute a grand number of 400 sets of Srimad Bhagavatam, and everyone is working tirelessly in this service to make this a reality. Divya Prabhu is a true soldier in Srila Prabhupada's service, and his attachment to reading Srila Prabhupada's books and distributing them are exemplary for all of us to follow. Thank you, Divya Prabhu, for agreeing to take the class. I welcome you here. I think this is the first time you're taking a class for ISKCON Leicester. Over to you. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Santosh Prabhu, for introducing me. I all that what you have said is the glorification. I take it for Sri Guru and Srila Prabhupada, because I'm yet to get to where what you have described me, but one day, hopefully, by the mercy of the Vaishnavas and the mercy of Kunti Maharani, who we're going to read her prayers today, that hopefully some iota of those qualities can manifest in my heart and will also help me in progress in my spiritual life. But for now, I'm a person with full of anarthas and faults. But yes, there is a hope because we are all following the pure devotee Srila Prabhupada. So one day we can all also attain the lotus feet of Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda in the spiritual world. So thank you so much for the introduction and allowing me to be here. Very grateful to you, to Pradyumna Prabhu and other devotees who have offered me this opportunity. So we will begin with Jai Radha Madhav prayers. And we will then discuss today's 3 beautiful verses from the 8th chapter of the 1st canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Jaya Gopijana Vallabha Jaya Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajakacarya Aso Tat Shri Srimad A.C. Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramhamsa Parivrajakacarya Aso Tat Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavrind Ki Jai. Naam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vind Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shri Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Shri Mayapur Navadip Dham Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Shri Dwarka Puri Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Transcendental Book Distribution Ki Jai. Brahat Mridanga Ki Jai. Samavet Vrind Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. Nitai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol. All glories to Sri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay. So I'm just going to be, I'll just share my screen with all of you so we can see the verses on the screen and get an opportunity to recite those verses together. So these are the 3 very beautiful verses, part of these wonderful garland of verses which Kunti Maharani is offering to Lord Krishna in the form of these beautiful verses. So let's start with the verses. So Santosh Prabhu, just to clarify, should I just read the verses and then we will I'll read the translation and the purport for all the 3 verses myself?
Yes, please, Prabhu. Yes, if you
Okay.
can. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhu. Text 28 from the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, 8th chapter. Before we begin recitation of the verses, if you could all repeat after me behind the muted mics is also fine. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Text 28. Manne tvam kalam ishanam anadi nidanam vibhum samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yanmitha kali. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller, without beginning and end, all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between the living beings are due to the social intercourse. Purport. Kunti Devi knew that Krishna was neither her nephew nor an ordinary family member of her paternal house. She knew perfectly well that Krishna is the primeval Lord who lives in everyone's heart as a super soul, Paramatma. Another name of the Paramatma feature of the Lord is Kala, or eternal time. Eternal time is the witness of all our actions, good and bad, and thus resultant reactions are destined by him. It is no use saying that we do not know why and for what we are suffering. We may forget the misdeed for which we may suffer at this present moment, but we must remember that Paramatma is our constant companion, and therefore he knows everything past, present, and future. And because Paramatma, feature of Lord Krishna, destines all actions and reactions, he is the supreme controller also. And without his sanction, not a blade of grass can move. The living beings are given as much freedom as they deserve, and the misuse of that freedom is the cause of suffering. The devotees of the Lord do not misuse their freedom, and therefore they are good sons of Lord. Others who misuse freedom are put into miseries destined by the eternal Kala. The Kala offers the conditioned souls both happiness and miseries. It is all predestined by eternal time. As we have miseries uncalled for, so we may have happiness also without being asked, for they are all predestined by Kala. No one therefore either an enemy or friend of the Lord. Everyone is suffering and enjoying the results of his own destiny. This destiny is made by the living beings in the course of social intercourse. Everyone here wants to load it over the material nature, and thus everyone creates his own destiny under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. He is all pervading, and therefore he can see everyone's activities. And because the Lord has no beginning or end, he is known as also the eternal time, Kala. So we'll read the text 29 and 30th as well, and then we will go through each of these verses and some key points from Srila Prabhupada's purport. Text 29. Na veda kashit bhagavamschikrishitam tave hamanasya nirnam vidambanam na yasya kashit daitosti karachit devasyasya cha yasmin vishma matir nirnam. Translation and purport. O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and so are misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial. Purport. The Lord's mercy upon the fallen soul is equally distributed. He has no one as the specific object of hostility. The very conception of the personality of Godhead as a human being is misleading. His pastimes appear to be exactly like a human being's, but actually they are transcendental and without any tinge of material contamination. He is undoubtedly known as partial to his pure devotees, but in fact he is never partial, as much as the sun is never partial to anyone. By utilizing the sun rays, sometimes even the stones become valuable, whereas a blind man cannot see the sun, although there are enough sun rays before him. Darkness and light are two opposite connections, but this does not mean that the sun is partial in distributing its rays. The sun rays are open to everyone, but the capacities of the receptacles differ. Foolish people think that devotional service is flattering to the Lord to get the special mercy. Factually, the pure devotees who are engaged in transcendental loving service of the Lord are not at all mercantile community. A mercantile house renders service to someone in exchange for values. The pure devotee does not render service unto the Lord for such exchange, and therefore the full mercy of the Lord is open for him. Suffering men, needy men, inquisitive persons, or philosophers make temporary connections with the Lord to serve a particular purpose. When the purpose is served, there is no more relation with the Lord. A suffering man, if he is pious at all, prays to the Lord for his recovery. But as soon as the recovery is over, in most cases, the suffering man no longer cares to keep any connection with the Lord. The mercy of the Lord is open for him, but he is reluctant to receive it. That is the difference between a pure devotee and a mixed devotee. Those who are completely against the service of the Lord are considered to be an object, to be in abject darkness. Those who ask for the Lord's favor only at the time of necessity are partial recipients of the mercy of the Lord. And those who are 100% engaged in the service of the Lord are full recipients of the mercy of the Lord. Such partiality in receiving the Lord's mercy is relative to the recipient, and it is not due to the partiality of the all-merciful Lord. When the Lord descends to this material world by his all-merciful energy, he plays like a human being, and therefore it appears that the Lord is partial to his devotees only. But that is not a fact. Despite such apparent manifestation of the partiality, his mercy is equally distributed. In the battlefield of Kurukshetra, all persons who died in the fight before the presence of the Lord got salvation without the necessary qualification, because death before the presence of the Lord purifies the passing soul from the effects of all sins. And therefore the dying man gets a place somewhere in the transcendental abode. Somehow or other, if someone puts himself open in the sun rays, he is sure to get the requisite benefit both by the heat and by the ultraviolet rays. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Lord is never partial. It is wrong for the people in general to think of him as partial. Text 30th, which is our last text for discussion today. Janma karma cha vishwatman ajasya kartur atmana triyanishu yadahashu tad atyanta vidambanam. Translation and purport. Of course, it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work, though you are inactive, and that you take birth, though you are vital force and the unborn. You yourself descend amongst the animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering. Purport. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord are not only bewildering, but also apparently contradictory. In other words, they are all inconceivable to the limited thinking power of the human being. The Lord is all-pervading supersoul of all existence, and yet he appears in the form of a boar amongst the animals, in the form of a human being as a Ram, Krishna, etc., in the form of Rishi like Narayan, and in the form of an aquatic like a fish. Yet it is said that he is unborn and he has nothing to do. In the Shruti mantra, it is said that the Supreme Brahman has nothing to do. No one is equal or greater than him. He has manifold energies, and everything is performed by him perfectly by automatic knowledge, strength, and activity. All these statements prove without any question that the Lord's activities, form, and deeds are all inconceivable to our limited thinking power. And because he is inconceivably powerful, everything is possible in him. Therefore, no one can calculate him exactly. Every action of the Lord is bewildering to the common man. He cannot be understood by the Vedic knowledge, but he can be easily understood by pure devotees because they are intimately related with him. The devotees therefore know that although he appears amongst the animals, he is not an animal, nor a man, nor a rishi, nor a fish. He is eternally the Supreme Lord in all circumstances. What beautiful prayers. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Samsajivam Sadvaitam Savadevutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashat Deshatarine Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubheva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradaite Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Krishna Gaura Tvishe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishbhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Nama eva kevalam Kalo naste vanaste vagati ranyatha. Once again, I offer my humble obeisances to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and also to my spiritual master, His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, and to all the assembled Vaishnavas who are like a desire tree who can fulfill the desires of everybody in the world. So kindly give me your blessings and empowerment so I can speak something for my own purification. And in the process of doing so, if something comes out on the basis of Srila Prabhupada purport, then I would consider today's session to be a success. So some really nice prayers we have read today from the teachings of Queen Kunti. It is a very important part of the Srimad Bhagavatam in the first canto, where these prayers come actually at such an important gesture. And Kunti Devi really sets up the stage actually for the entire Srimad Bhagavatam, and many other personalities like Brahma, Vritasura, Lord Shiva. Then in the 8th canto, also we hear the prayers of the demigods to the Lord. And then we also hear the prayers in the 8th canto of how after the Mohini Murti incarnation of the Lord, that Brahma, Shiva, everybody is offering the prayers. And then leading up to the canto 10, then, Lord Brahma, then the various gopis, 11th canto with Akura, like that. Throughout the Srimad Bhagavatam is actually nothing but this beautiful prayers across the Bhagavatam. And now we are discussing especially these prayers of Kunti Maharani, which are so the embodiment of the dependence or the surrender of a devotee on Krishna. That's what these prayers signifies. And we will see. So in the first verse, which we are discussing before we discuss today, we'll pray to Vyasadev in the form of this, who's the literary incarnation of the Srimad Bhagavatam, that he blesses us. So Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udirayet. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of the conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, unto Nar Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadev, the author of Srimad Bhagavatam. And by doing so, the result will be Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavti Naishtaki. By regular attendance in the classes of Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. And loving service unto the personality of the Godhead, who's praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. So what is happening here? How is the Lord pleased? He's pleased by the devotees who are by loving service unto the Lord, who are praised by the transcendental songs. So all this, what we are going to read, the 3 verses or what we have read, are nothing but the transcendental songs meant for the glorification of the Lord. And by glorifying the Lord and offering these prayers, the Lord will be established in our heart as an irrevocable fact. How nice would be to have something in our heart which cannot be evoked or which cannot be revoked. It's there permanent as an asset, as an offering of love to the Lord. So this is the outline of the verses, these two, especially the 2 verses where Krishna's equality is explained. And in the text 30, how Krishna's bewildering activities leading up to the text 31 are explained. And in the subsequent verses, how the reasons for Krishna's appearance are explained. This is a summary of the 8th chapter, that from text 1 to 16, Krishna again saves his devotees. We hear the beautiful prayers that how Kunti Maharani is glorifying the Lord for saving Parikshit Maharaj in the womb of Uttara in these 16 verses. And then from the text 17 to 36, Kunti Devi begins to offer the prayers. And then from text 37 to 43, Kunti Devi concludes by expressing her fear and her actual desire. And then finally, towards the end of the chapter, Krishna accepts Kunti Devi's prayers and hears the distressed words of Yudhishthira Maharaj. And what does he do as a result? He decides to stay back for some more time. And that's what the Lord does. When you pray, he decides to stay as long as we are praying to the Lord in our heart. So this is the first verse. I'll read the translation once again. My Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller without beginning and end, the all-pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissensions between the living beings are due to the social intercourse. So I want to keep the Prabhupada purport very close to myself because that's what I want to discuss, some really important points from this chapter, from this verse, sorry. So now we are discussing the text 28. So these are the highlights from this particular text. And what are those highlights? The highlights are that how the Kala and Paramatma are similar in the sense that the Kala or the time representation is a representation of the Paramatma feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's the first point. The second is that how the proper use versus the misuse of freedom is being spoken by Srila Prabhupada in the purport. And the third point is the predestined versus creation of our destiny. And Prabhupada also touched base on this particular point. So let's look at how the destiny is made by the living beings in the course of the social discourse. So here Srila Prabhupada explains towards the end of the purport that how our actions which we perform, we are supposed to get certain reactions based on those actions. And those actions we perform are noted by the Kala, the time factor, who's none other than the Supreme Personality of Godhead situated in our heart in the form of the Paramatma. So Krishna, we may think that, okay, nobody is making a note of the actions I'm performing or the desires I'm having in my heart. But the fact is, the Lord is actually the last one to make a note of that. Before that, there are so many factors, like it is explained, the sky is one of the witnesses who's looking at our activities. The water is one of the witnesses who's looking towards our activities. The sun is watching our activities. All the devatas are watching our activities. And the super soul is also watching our activities. But even if all these personalities who have just explained may overlook or may have gotten busy with other activities, although they don't, but for some reason or other, if they did, but the super soul situated in our heart cannot let go the witnessing of those activities which we are performing. So here Srila Prabhupada makes a very good point. He says that no one is therefore either an enemy or a friend of the Lord. Everyone is suffering and enjoying the result of his own destiny. This destiny is made by the living beings in the course of social intercourse. Everyone here wants to load it over the material nature, and thus everyone creates his own destiny under the supervision of the Supreme Lord. So under the supervision, Deva Netrena, the word used here is the Kala or the super soul is the ultimate witness, and the word used is Deva Netrena. Deva means superior or godly, and Netrena means by the eyes, or Nitrya, by the leadership or the superintendence of the Lord. So one has to be very careful of the activities we perform, because every single activity is being noted by the Lord. And not only that, according to the activity we performed and the intention we have behind that activity, we are rewarded a certain kind of the result. So if our activities are by nature uplifting and or of the spiritual nature, then we will be rewarded a spiritual result for it. But if our activities are driven towards enjoying the material world, then the material nature under the direction of Deva Netrena, Supreme Personality of Godhead, will work in such beautiful way that it will result us in giving us a particular material body based on the desire. So one has to be very careful of what we desire in our life. And we hear this Radha Govind Maharaj. I heard this lecture where Maharaj was sharing a story in Hindi, and Maharaj was explaining that how once a devotee, after practicing for almost, I think, 20 years in Krishna consciousness, he was out to take bath in a river with his friends. And the friends were saying, don't go deep inside because the river flow is very strong and it can, take you away. But he didn't listen, and he went inside. And unfortunately, the tide of the river came so strongly that he got blown with it, and he went deep into the river, and he was drowning. And as he was drowning, at one point, he was almost about to become unconscious. And the only thing he shared after, of course, by the help of the devotees, he was saved. And he came out and he said that for some reason or other, I've not watched television for 15, 20 years. But this old ad in the olden days, some of you will remember this little ad was there, of a lady taking shower in the waterfall, and singing a song about the little ad. And he said that ad came to my mind in front of me as I was about to drown. So there are two aspects to it. The one learning is that, of course, it is very difficult to remember the Lord if our impressions, our past life impressions, are so strong that they come in front of us. And especially if they come while we are dying or in such a dire situation, then we know our destination is not very auspicious. The second aspect is that we have to be very careful about our practices which we are doing in devotional service. And that's why Kunti Maharani is reminding us. She's saying, oh my Lord, I consider your Lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller without beginning and end, and all pervasive one, that you're there all the time, noticing everything what is going on. And your mercy, you're equal to everyone. He's saying, although you're equal to everybody, the dissensions between the living beings are due to our social. So how we interact in this material world has a great deal to do with what we are made up of, actually. So that's why if our activities are spiritual, then the Lord is making a note of that and we'll be rewarded a spiritual destination. But if our activities are not spiritual, then we will be given a destination which is not of a spiritual nature, not under the Devi Shakti of the Lord. So these are some key points from this verse. And in conclusion, this is what the words of Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, God consciousness is so important. Prabhupada is saying, if Krishna consciousness movement, Prabhupada gives a lecture on this particular verse, and this is the concluding words of that lecture. Prabhupada is saying, if Krishna consciousness movement is spread and if it is taken by all people, then so many things will automatically be reformed. There will be no need of police. There will be no need of CID, because if one is God conscious, he will not do anything wrong. But because people are not God conscious, they are doing so many wrong things that it has been almost impossible to govern the people. Therefore, Krishna consciousness movement is very essential to understand this fact that samam charantam sarvatra bhutanam yan mitha kaliha. So Prabhupada is saying that is why there is such a need for us to spread this Krishna consciousness movement as much as possible, for the benefit of the society, for the benefit of ourselves, and for the benefit of the entire world. And that is why this point about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saying, Prithvite Ache Nagarati Gram, that across the world, that across the globe, that let my name be spread in every town and village. And how can, and then, and after saying that instruction, Mahaprabhu doesn't leave it there. He says, Amar Agya Hoye, that by my instruction, you take this instruction and become spiritual master and spread the holy name as far as possible. And these Srila Prabhupada books are non-different to the holy name. In fact, Prabhupada one time called them a better kirtan than the normal Hare. Of course, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the Yoga Dharma, but he called this distribution of the Brihat Mridanga to be the better kirtan, because by giving these knowledge to the people of the world, the people are benefiting immensely. They will go back, they will read. Prabhupada says, what will your lecture of half an hour will do? But if they read one line of these books, their life will change. It will change. Their life will take a new, course of action. So that is why we have to really take these prayers of Kunti Maharani as seriously as possible and try to share this knowledge with others for the mankind, for the benefit of everybody. And in the process of doing so, we get special attraction of Krishna, which we get in all the services. But in this service, he specially notices a devotee that, oh, Karuna Chaitanya Prabhu, who's living in Leicester, wonderful devotee with his family, and he's going out and he's giving out the Bhagavad Gita, knocking the doors of the people and telling, Prabhu, Mataji, my life has changed 10, 15 years ago when I came in touch with this wonderful book of Srila Prabhupada. And I'm feeling new joy in my life. And that's why I'm here at your door wanting to share this message of Bhagavad Gita. So please take it, read it together and share it with others. Why would you think Krishna will not make a special attention of Karuna Chaitanya Prabhu while he's doing this? He will definitely do that because he knows that this devotee is taking all risk. How easy it is to take a bag on your shoulder and walk out of the door, try to give a Bhagavad Gita to somebody. It's not that easy. But if you do so, then the empowerment of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna is very much present there. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says, if you do it, you may get a rejection. As Prabhu goes on, Karuna Chaitanya Prabhu, if you're online, can you tell us what is your house number and where do you live? What is the street name, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Hare Krishna Divya Prabhu.
Hi, Prabhu.
We live on 63 Wood Newton Drive.
Okay, so if Prabhu lives on a 63 Wood Newton Drive and he goes and knocks the door of 65 and he says, Hare Krishna, my name is Karuna Chaitanya, I'm your neighbor. And I practice Bhakti Yoga in the beautiful temple here in Leicester. We have wonderful leaders like Gurudas Prabhu, Pradyumna Prabhu, many other wonderful devotees who are serving here. And we all come together on a Sunday. And today we are on a sprint here trying to give out prayers of Queen Kunti book or Bhagavad Gita, whatever the book is. And I'm giving this. And that Prabhu happened to say that, thank you so much for visiting me, Karuna Chaitanya, but I'm not interested. Please try next door. And he shuts his door on Karuna Chaitanya Prabhu. Now, what will happen? Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur says in that moment, he says that when you get rejection from the people, when you're going to tell and preach others about Krishna consciousness, what you get is Chitta Rakta for your Chitta Sharira. So just in that moment, Karuna Chaitanya Prabhu managed to get some spiritual blood for his spiritual body. That's exactly what has happened to him. And who would not like to have the spiritual blood while he's going door to door trying to convince others about Krishna consciousness? All of us want to develop, because our existence is meant to develop that Chitta Rakta, not the material enjoyment or the material blood. We want spiritual blood for our spiritual body. So at the time of the death, we are able to remember Krishna. Ante kala, at the time of the death, we are able to remember Krishna. So that was the conclusion of that verse. Now we will have a discussion on this beautiful text from text 29 and some important points from this verse leading up into the next verse. Here, Kunti Maharani is saying, "O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human and are so misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial." So the highlights from this particular verse are that Krishna's equality versus his partiality. Partiality is relative to the recipient, as Prabhupada gives a beautiful example, and we will discuss that example in the purport of the sun rays on the stone versus the blind man. So here we see the points from Prabhupada purport are that God is not partial. Sun and sunshine example gives a beautiful example that how the sun is giving its rays to everybody. And Prabhupada in another place gives a point in the lecture that the sun rays also falls on a stool, and it also falls on a beautiful land, or in Vrindavan Dham for that matter. The sunshine in itself doesn't get affected because it's falling in the stool or falling on the Vrindavan Dham or any other place for that matter. The sunshine quality remains as a sunshine, which is to purify the place where it is falling. Because if the sunshine constantly falls on a filthy place, even that place will get purified over a period of a time. And the same time, if the sunshine is falling in another place, the quality of the sunshine remains the same. But what differs is the person or the place which is receiving that quality. So Prabhupada also gives an example that if person decides to stay in the dark room, it is his choice. But the moment he opens his window, all the sunshine is coming inside, and then he's able to not only see what is there in the room, but he's also able to see what it looks like. There are beautiful trees like my outside. Right now, temporarily, we are living at the lotus feet of Sri Radha Gokulananda at Hillfield Lane, very close to Bhaktivedanta Manor. So there are beautiful green trees outside. I'm able to see the birds creeping outside. There is so much light I'm able to see. Similarly, when the Lord enters, he gives his mercy. It depends on how much purified we are and how much qualified we are to receive that mercy of the Lord. How much are we really praying to get that mercy of the Lord? Another example Srila Prabhupada gives that a father is affectionate. Let's say if he has 4 children, he's affectionate to all the 4 children. If a children who's so disobedient a little bit, and if he suffers and has a difficulty or he dies, the father will be very, very morose. It's not that he won't be morose. But the interesting point to note is, on the other hand, if the father sees that one son has become so obedient, he's worshipping the Lord, he's doing everything so properly, it is natural for him to generally feel more affection for that child. Similarly, when the devotee is engaged and making the prayers like Kunti Maharani to the Lord, it is very natural for the Lord to give that reciprocation. Ye yatha mam prapadyante tam tatheva bhajami aham. So as we surrender unto the Lord rewards us, in reciprocation. So there is nothing wrong in it. It's not, we can't say the Lord is not partial, but it's very natural for the Lord to have that affection towards Kunti Maharani, towards all of us, and towards all the devotee of the Lord. And Prabhupada goes on to explain that foolish people think devotional service is flattering the Lord. In this purport, he says, devotees are not here for business. They love Krishna without any expectation in return. That's why when we hear Srimad Bhagavatam at the outset of the first chapter, in the second verse, it is directly mentioned in that beautiful verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is said that, what is that beautiful verse? The first line Dharma projita kaitvo tra paramo nirmatsaranam satam Vedyam Vastavam Atra Vastu Shivadam Tapatraya Anumulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Pare Rishwara Sadhya Hridayo Avaruddhate Ta Kritibi Shrushrubi Tatshanat, completely rejecting all religious activity which are materially motivated. This Bhagavad Purana propagates the highest truth. And what is the highest truth? The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the benefit of all. So this is what Srimad Bhagavatam, he's giving us the warning right at the beginning. My dear sir, my dear madam, my dear Santosh Prabhu, or my dear devotee, please, now that you have opened Srimad Bhagavatam, let me clear one thing, that this literature is not like any other mundane literature which promises you that if you fast on Mangalwar, you will get this benediction. If you fast on this day or make so many fasts, you will get a certain kind of results in your exams. Srimad Bhagavatam is saying, if you're looking for that kind of business activity, then please go out and take to some other literature which promises you that kind of results. But if you are at all interested in looking at the beautiful face of Shyam Sundar, who's situated at the banks of the beautiful Yamuna river under the Kadamba tree in his Tribhanga form, then you can go on to open the third text of Srimad Bhagavatam and then carry on to the verses of Kunti Maharani and beyond that. Only if you're interested in that kind of beauty and that kind of attraction toward the Lord, then you take to Srimad Bhagavatam. Otherwise, stane stita, stay where you are, do what you're doing, and be happy in the material world. Of course, you will never be happy, but do what you're doing. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is a very important point, that if we are looking to progress in devotional service, then we should take to reading of Srila Prabhupada books, studying of Prabhupada books wholeheartedly as much as possible. And that is why Prabhupada says the prayers to Krishna only as a person who is looking for something, he only prays to Krishna for time being. But the moment his prayers are fulfilled, or even if they are not fulfilled, he walks away. But a devotee who's 100% engaged in the service of the Lord will attract the full mercy of the Lord. And everyone in the battlefield, Prabhupada gives the example, became the recipient of mercy because everybody went back to the spiritual world. Now, of course, the destination within the spiritual world may differ because, as I said, because of the degree of the surrender of the devotee. But the point is, everybody gets to go to the spiritual world. And Prabhupada says this beautiful line. He says, because these people or the soldier, they died in front of the Lord, of course, their destination has to be of spiritual nature. So in conclusion of this verse, the Lord is not partial. Lord's mercy is available to everybody as long as we are able to put ourselves in front of that mercy. But if we put ourselves and say, I want a bit of this, I want a bit of that, and I maybe every day I can't hear Prabhupada, maybe every day I don't have time, then to that degree we are stopping ourselves from being the recipient of the mercy of Krishna. But if we say, okay, every day I take a vow. So for example, there is a beautiful app. If you Google this app, I'm going to share it, or I'll request Santosh Prabhu to type it for me if he doesn't mind. That it's called Be a Sage Page by Page. If you Google this in your time, you download this app. And in that app, you can set yourself a daily quota that today, every day I'm going to read 5 pages of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So let me give you an example. If you put a target to read 14 pages of Bhagavatam every day, which is possible, I've been doing it for a few years, and it takes about 25 minutes to do that. And if you do that, then you know for sure that the 18,000 verses of Srimad Bhagavatam, including the purport of Srila Prabhupada, you will be able to cover it in 3 years. How wonderful is that? In 3 years, you will be able to, one may think, Prabhu, you're giving the entire set of Bhagavatam, distributing. What about reading? Prabhupada says that it is not a matter of time. We complain of the time, but it is a matter of taste. Because when we are excited about watching football, playing England, like some cup is going on right now, or India versus Pakistan Cricket World Cup, because that's what I was excited about, or anything, you will leave aside everything and sit in front of the screen and watch that, because you have some taste, you have developed some sangha. And in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that once you develop some sangha, because of the modes of material nature, it's very difficult to overcome that sangha. So because we have that sangha, we have that taste now. So similarly, if we develop the taste, like my Guru Maharaj says, that if we can appreciate the amount of vigor, the amount of effort, and the amount of energy and the time Srila Prabhupada took to write these books, if we can appreciate that, then maybe we will get some iota or some tiny drop appreciation to read with the same enthusiasm. Then our life will be successful. Just imagine how much hardship did Prabhupada go. He hardly slept. Wherever he went, he did not stop the transcription and writing of his books, actually. Even here at Bhaktivedanta Manor, every time Prabhupada was here, that table is still there. As you walk into Prabhupada's rooms, you will feel that same energy that Prabhupada is sitting there and transcribing Srimad Bhagavatam. So if we can give the same amount of time and energy, then our life will be successful. To download this app, set yourself a target, because if you do that, and somebody meets you, say there is a Prabhu called here, there is Patel family, for example, joining us in this class, and somebody from the Patel family calls, Prabhu Kemcho Majama, and then he asks, oh, when are you going to finish Bhagavatam? That Prabhu will be able to tell him, on the 20th of January 2024, I'll be able to finish the entire Bhagavatam. How amazing is that, to be able to know that I'm reading? Now, of course, finish does not mean we become perfect, but we come closer to Krishna. We develop some purification, because this Bhagavatam is a spotless Purana. When you read Bhagavatam, your heart will become Hridaya Grantha, your Hridaya, your heart will will be pierced and it will become clear of any unwanted things. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. We'll be able to serve Bhagavatam. So in conclusion, now we will go to the text 30, which is the last text for today's discussion. Here Kunti Maharani is saying, of course it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work though you are inactive, and that you take birth though you are vital force and the unborn. You yourself descend amongst the animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering. So there are two highlights from this verse and the purport. The first is, how can Krishna be present everywhere and still be localized? And the second point is, how to reconcile apparent contradiction, and are there any contradictions? So we see the Lord appears in the various incarnations, like Matsya incarnation mentioned in the 8th canto. Two different manamantras were explained. One manamantra is the time when Lord appeared as a fish incarnation to save the Vedas from the hand of the demon called Hayagriva, because Brahma fell asleep during the daytime, which doesn't happen very rarely. And as he fell asleep, the Vedas were coming out of his mouth, and the Hayagriva stole those Vedas and he went deep into the ocean. And the Lord, being merciful, knowing that there will be so many devotees in ISKCON, Leicester, Bhaktivedanta Manor, in England, all over the world, would need some kind of spiritual knowledge to perfect their life, he appeared in the form of fish and he saved those Vedas. And that's why we have this beautiful project we are trying to serve called Go Matsya. Go means to go, not the cow, but Matsya means the fish incarnation. We are trying to preserve the Vedic culture through mass distribution and education. That's the vision of the Go Matsya project. And then there are these various different incarnations, beautiful incarnations of the Lord which appear. And these incarnations, Prabhupada makes such a beautiful point. He says that the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are not only bewildering, but also apparently contradictory. In other words, they are all inconceivable to the limited thinking. How can we think that Lord can take a form of fish? It's very difficult for a mundane mind. So the simple thing is, let's not bring our mental or previous conceptions. Let's accept these pastimes as it is. The Lord is appearing, read them, relish them, purify our heart, and eventually we will be able to take part in those pastimes of the Lord in the spiritual world. That's how we should accept these wonderful pastimes of the Lord. And this is what Prabhupada is saying. He has manful energies and everything is performed by him perfectly by automatic knowledge, strength, and activity. All these statements prove without any question that the Lord's activities, forms, and deeds are all inconceivable to our limited thinking power. And because he's inconceivably powerful, everything is possible in him. You see, because the Lord is inconceivably powerful, everything is possible in him. And finally, for a devotee, there is no contradiction. He cannot be understood by the Vedic knowledge, but he can be easily understood by the pure devotee because they are intimately related with him. So the qualification to go past the contradiction is to be intimately related, like how Arjuna was intimately related by the Lord. Then he completely understood what Krishna was trying to tell him. Similarly, if we discuss Bhagavatam, Tushyanti cha Ramanti cha, that by one other, Satatam Kirtayanto Mams Yathanantas cha Dhrita Vrita, that all the time, if we keep discussing these messages of Bhagavad Gita and the conversations of Krishna, then we become very intimate with the Lord. And the devotees therefore know that although he appears amongst the animals, he's not an animal, nor a man, nor a rishi, nor a fish. He's eternally the Supreme Lord in all circumstances. So this is what I wanted to just mention to all of you, that here it is mentioned that our own endeavors can only take us to the certain level, but ultimately the goal will be attained only by the mercy of the Vaishnavas and the mercy of Krishna. That is why the prayers play such an important role in our life. The more we pray to the Lord, the more we will be able to access that mercy of the Lord through the sincere prayers. This is what Srila Prabhupada is trying to tell us. So as aspiring devotees, we should know that it is actually part of our spiritual sadhana to make the prayers as part of our everyday sadhana if we can. And we learn from the book, these are Prabhupada's words, the book Sanat Sujatya, that 4 things are required in attaining perfection in any yoga practice: the scriptures, enthusiasm, a bona fide spiritual master, and sufficient time. And the scriptures recommend the path of surrender described in this book. And enthusiasm means to constantly remember the Lord and to pray for his mercy. So what is the enthusiasm? To means constantly remember the Lord. That's what the real enthusiasm is. And to pray for his mercy. The spiritual master in the heart of the surrendered devotee is the Supreme Lord himself. He manifests as the beloved initiating spiritual master and the instructing spiritual masters. It is the Supreme Lord who acts as the spiritual master in the heart, enlightens us with the Buddhi Yoga or the divine consciousness, and this consciousness helps us understand the Supreme Lord as he is. So do you see the significance of the prayer? And now I want to share with all of you a prayer which my spiritual master shared with us. Before we go to bed, this is a nice prayer we can recite, something we can start practicing from tonight together. Open the Ishopanishad, beautiful book we have, and this is the last mantra in the Ishopanishad. Akne naya supata rahe asman vishwani deva vayuyani vidvan yuyo daya asmat juro rameno bhuyyashtitam te nama uktim videma. O my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I've done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. And I felt this prayer was so appropriate for our today's discussion, because what is Kunti Maharani saying in one of the prayers? She's saying, let the vipida, let the troubles come into my life again and again so I can remember you all the time. But we as a practicing devotee, we do not have such courage as Kunti Maharani, because if the prayers will, if the troubles will come, some of us, maybe all of you will be able to remember, but often I will run and I'll start to lament, or something will happen. Or if I become too happy, then I'll forget the Lord. But what we can do, we can say that, oh my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I've done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins so that there will be no hindrance to my progress. What a beautiful prayer to read before we go to the bed. Of course, every prayer of Kunti Maharani, you can read one prayer every day. That's also nice. But I thought I'll share this nice prayer with all of you. And on that note, I would like to bring today's discussion to conclusion. And maybe we have few minutes now, for perhaps 10 minutes, for any comments, any questions, or any reflection. Reflection is not a question. It is an idea which you thought was very helpful, which you are able to put it in your pocket and go out. And if somebody asks you that Gokila Prabhu or Govinda Prabhu or Gokila Mataji, what was that guy talking about from Bhaktivedanta Manor today? What was he telling about Srila Prabhupada books? And what did you read from the Prabhupada? So something which stuck in your mind, you're able to reflect back. So that is a reflection. So you can either use your chat box, or Santosh Prabhu, are they also allowed to unmute themselves and ask a question?
Oh, yes, Prabhu. Definitely. Yeah, no problem.
Great. I want to share yes, please go ahead, Prabhu. Yes, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you. Wonderful class and wonderful points you put forward. It's been very, very insightful and really interesting to hear all these things. You mentioned about blood, about fresh blood. Obviously, blood needs oxygen. So, because we, how can we increase the oxygen in ourselves to have that enthusiasm to go out on the streets and also distribute these books? And sometimes we feel also when we're out on the streets, or when we're even out on Harinam, we feel quite sometimes put down, because obviously sometimes many days go by, much time can go by where we don't, we're not able to distribute books for whatever reason. Sometimes we feel a bit disgruntled for that, and then we feel, we go on our back foot. And it happens to experienced devotees as well. So could you just please give us some insight into that?
Sure.
Share your thoughts.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your words. So yes, Prabhu, I'll share something which was shared to me by a wonderful devotee called Mohan Rupa Prabhu. He's the temple president of East of Kailash Temple in Delhi, a very nice, wonderful disciple of His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. Mohan Rupa Prabhu said once that you see, when we go out and distribute the books, it is not so much the books which people are interested at that moment. People are interested in the devotee who's actually handing out the book. And he gave a very nice example that the reason devotees practicing Krishna consciousness, those who are sincere, are able to, even if they may not distribute more books, but they have more joyful experience or a purifying experience, is because what they're reading, they are so much happy with it and content with it that they actually, the content is not the word, they're not content with it. Now it's coming to such a level that they can't stop but to share with others. In Hindi, there is a saying, prachar means bhakti ka dakar. That means that the preaching means that you are so full in your heart and in your mind that it's very difficult for you to contain it. So, and when you go out and tell somebody, say you go out, Bhaktiman Prabhu, you tell, please take a book, and you give it to, this is a very nice, please take it. I mean, there's some enthusiasm, and you're definitely glorious because you've taken this step. But if you go out and say, sir, I live across the road and we are giving out these books on yoga and meditation. Personally, I've been benefited of these books. I try to read them every day, and they're bringing a real perspective in my life. And I honestly feel this can add a lot of value to your life, and you can do whatever you're doing, but just add, maybe read one line a day. So then that person sees an enthusiasm, he sees the excitement, he sees the joy which is there on your face. And because of that excitement, that person decides to take the book. And even if he rejects you in that mood, it will always leave that person with, oh man, this person was so humble. I completely said outright no. And he said, thank you so much for your help. But I'm, and I hope you have a wonderful day. And thank you for giving me your valuable time. So our main motive of book distribution should be to leave everybody with a good impression, Prabhu. And that can only happen when we are very happy with what we are receiving. And that will happen when we are trying to practice our Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada uses 3 words, strict, serious, and sincere. That really means that every day setting aside a time for chanting our rounds, making sure not a single day goes without reading Srila Prabhupada books, even if it means half an hour, although Prabhupada said minimum 1 hour. Get yourself into habit of reading certain page. Read a chapter of Bhagavad Gita every day. We do this every evening, either online or on our own when we are there. That will keep you in a good sense. Even if you walk out, something happens to you, you'll still be Krishna conscious. And finally, the point is, I'm not able to get to that level, but I hope one day. My Guru Maharaj says, never leave a home without one book of Prabhupada. Take a bag, little prasadam, and some kind of Mahamantra sticker with you. And Krishna will send you somebody who you will be able to give a book. And it has happened with many of us, actually, Bhaktiman Prabhu. So those were some of my thoughts, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu. That's brilliant. That's excellent. Thank you. Very good.
Thank you, Pradyumna Prabhu, for your encouraging words. I'm very happy that I had your association for a few minutes here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Shanti Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Vandana Pranam. This first association is amazing class you have given, and so many things to digest. And our what you call digest system, whether be able to digest or not straight away. But I'm sure some of things I grasp and I can follow it. And plus, when you said in the beginning, our destiny is prefixed, and if it's prefixed, then how it can change it, especially if his destiny is bad way, in the worst position, whatever we're thinking, and how it will change, and how can we change it if it's prefixed by Krishna.
Sure.
And how we can understand that, please.
Okay, thank you for a wonderful question, Mataji. So the destiny, our destiny is prefixed only to the degree we want it to be prefixed, in the sense that because it is explained in the Bhagavad Gita that when we come into this material world, we come in the sangha of the 3 modes of material nature. So we are already carrying the baggage from our previous lives, and those previous lives have already created a certain amount of quota for us to be entangled with certain kind of the modes, actually. And when we come in this world, because we are already entangled with the modes and we are going through that karmic reaction, we are supposed to go through whatever reaction we are going to get because of that, our sangha with that particular modes in our previous life. However, as I use the word Deva Netrena, it is happening in the jurisdiction of the Supreme Lord. And Krishna also says that Devi Esha Mama Mai, Mama Maya Durataya, that this divine energy of mine is very difficult to overcome. This modes of material nature is very difficult to overcome. But those who take my shelter, then there is some hope, there is possibility. So slowly and gradually, Shanti Mataji, as you take shelter at your deities at beautiful temple at Leicester, slowly and gradually as you take on some little services like making of the garlands for the deities, then serving the devotees prasadam when the Sunday feast open up, and any small little service you can render to the Vaishnava, then that destiny not only changes, it takes a 360-degree change, Mataji, because you may do a certain pious activity. Let's say you open a school, that's wonderful. And you open a hospital, that's very nice. But even by doing so, you're putting yourself to enjoy the results which are going to come as a result, which are pious result, no doubt. But when you offer some service to a devotee of the Lord, or to your temple, or anything, any seva you do, then you change 360-degree, because not only you go above the modes, but now you're directly dealing with the divine energy of the Lord, because you're being assured here, like by Kunti Maharani, she's saying, because your pastimes are so wonderful, and seva means to take past. Like when you're doing the garland, what do you think the gopis are doing there in the spiritual world? They're making garland for Srimati Radharani and Krishna. That's what they're doing all the time. So we are just trying to practice that in a regulated way here. And it, in that sense, Prabhupada says, wherever you have the beautiful temple, like you have in Leicester, it's non-different to Vrindavan. We have to engage ourselves with the devotees, serve the Vaishnavas, takes any little service. My Guru Maharaj says, your seva will save you. If we take any service, any small service, no service is a small service, that will save us. So taking part in devotional service can change our destiny 360-degree, Shanti Mataji. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does, Prabhu. It's answered beautifully and make it say, and can you ask just a little thing more? I noticed there's some more devotees probably lined up.
Sure.
As just we are Krishna devotees, I'm Shraddha Devi Dasi, and it's my Zoom name is Shanti Devi.
Okay.
And how we can answer this to very, very beginners, or just those who are not in the Krishna consciousness? How we can, like suppose as family members, they're
Sure.
not into the Krishna consciousness. How we can start off them?
Okay, that's a very good question you're asking. I'll give you two answers to this question, Mataji. My first answer is, if they are your immediate family members, say husband, wife, or especially if they are parents or elderly, I would not answer this question to them at all. Unless they ask the question, then you can try to answer in the light I gave, or taking or sharing with them according to your experience. The reason I say I wouldn't share is because once a wonderful saint, His Holiness Mahanidhi Swami, told me that only when you have gone around the world telling everybody about Krishna consciousness, that's when you go to your parents and tell them about Krishna consciousness. The only way to share with the closest family members is to lead by example. And what I mean by that is, Mataji, trying to practice with sincerity and praying for those family members. And one of the best way to pray is, like on Monday, tomorrow we're going to be fasting on Ekadashi. So if you're really finding it difficult that why this person does not take to Krishna consciousness, then you pray to Ekadashi personified, and when you break your fast next morning, that, oh my dear Lord, you have given me the strength to fast without the grains, and I'm about to break my Ekadashi. It's Dwadashi today, and I like to offer the result of this Ekadashi Vrat to this close family member, and please empower this soul so they can come closer to Krishna. And you will see slowly and gradually that person will make progress. And sometimes, Mataji, like my parents, they took much later Krishna consciousness. I came to Krishna consciousness because of my wife. She was practicing, and my parents weren't up for it, especially because, I got it from my wife, and they thought, what's happening to the whole family. And now, from last 5 years, they're living in Vrindavan. They're chanting more rounds than I could be. They're hearing more. They could be reading more. So the life took a 360-degree change for my parents, actually. So it's very difficult. We should not be in a judgmental way of, we do not know who's where in their Krishna consciousness. All we can do is pray for them, give them Krishna Prasadam. And if they are a little bit favorable, give them Srila Prabhupada's small book. Start with that. Give them a little Beyond Birth and Death. Tell them to read. If they have any questions, tell them to ask Gurudas Prabhu, Manu Prabhu, Pradyumna Prabhu. Always act through your friends when you're working in the family. Invite other devotees in your house, Mataji. If that works very, very well. That's my personal experience. Rather than directly going at them, invite them to a program and let them introduce them to other friends of yours and let them share their experiences, and you will see over a period of time how they are coming closer to Krishna.
Okay. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for this wonderful
you.
answer. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Danokram.
Santosh Prabhu, I'm conscious of time. Can I take one last question here, or?
Of course, but we can go on. I see there are 2 questions there, so please.
Okay.
no
Okay.
problem.
Okay, Prabhu. So here I have a question. Jai Prabhu is asking, we should not ask for anything material in our prayers. So what should we ask for in our prayers? Are there any other key prayers we should recite on a daily basis? Beautiful question, Prabhu. Very beautiful question. So I will again give you 2 answers for this, Prabhu, that even if initially somebody who's you see is praying for some material things, it is okay as long as he's praying to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So I'll give you an example. Krishna says in the first canto, in the Bhagavatam, it is explained, Akama sarva kamo va moksha kama udarite tivreta bhakti yogena yajate parishampuram. Bhagavatam is saying a person with a broader intelligence, he may be of desiring some material benefit, some kind of a liberation to be on the same level as the Lord, some, wanting some kind of material. It's okay as long as that person comes to the lotus feet of Krishna, because when we come, the Lord will give what we need, not what we want. He will give us what we need, and he will purify us in the process of giving, so that we would never ask that thing in such a way. He will tell us that he will give us, but he will make sure that we won't ask it again. We will only ask for devotional service. That's what happens when we come to Krishna. And the second part of your question, Prabhu, as I said, the last mantra of the Ishopanishad is a nice prayer to begin with every night before you go to bed. But take any of these verses, starting with the text 18 all the way to text 36 in this 8th chapter of Bhagavatam, and take one prayer every night of Kunti Maharani. Just read that one verse and you will feel such strong connection with Krishna by these prayers. Bhagavatam is full of these prayers actually. So any prayers you can pick up, whichever helps you, Prabhu. Okay. Where can we listen to or join in with the Prabhu's session classes on Bhagavad Gita? So yeah, this chat program, we started chapter a day of Bhagavad Gita. We do every evening. We have devotees from our congregation who come every day. We recite one chapter. You can do it where you are at your home, or you can join at 7:45, one verse at a time. And we discuss one purport every evening, and 7:45 to 8:45. Divya Gaurangi Mataji has shared the details. What was the other question? I think, yeah, I've answered both the question. I had a reflection here, Rita Mataji shared, I'll read that. A really interesting point about how the mercy of the beautiful Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda spreads in Kali Yuga and doesn't judge anyone and completely accepts us as we are, even with our material imperfections, and reciprocates in authentic ways, inspiring us with the mood to inspire others. Thank you for this important reminder that the inspiration lies within the books of Srila Prabhupada. Absolutely. Our International Society of Krishna Consciousness, if you minus it with the books of Srila Prabhupada, there will not be any movement. Everything in this movement is based on this, our strong philosophy of Srila Prabhupada books, and the person behind in the books is Srila Prabhupada and all the other devotees who have imbibed that mood of Srila Prabhupada. And Leicester community is a great example of that mood, where you have so many wonderful leaders like Pradyumna Prabhu, Gurudas Prabhu, and so many others like Karuna Chaitanya Prabhu, and so many of you who have tuned in today, that who are an example of a thriving community. And so much is already happening. You have courses running. Devotees are going to be going on Harinam very shortly. Gurudas Prabhu wants to distribute at least 51 Bhagavatam sets this year. So my request to all of you is, please help Gurudas Prabhu, and Manu Prabhu has also joined the community there now so wonderfully. Help these devotees in taking this transcendental vibration of Srila Prabhupada books to as many homes as possible, so people can hear about this wonderful place. They can come, take to the courses, learn about the Bhakti Yoga process, and perfect their life in Krishna consciousness. And so yeah, I'm very grateful for allowing me to come here today, Santosh Prabhu. And on that note, I would like to conclude today's session. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you, Santosh Prabhu.
Thank you, Divya Prabhu, for agreeing to take the class, and thank you for helping us to understand Kuntiman and his mood in her prayers. I'll still encourage anyone, if you have any more questions. It's not like every day Divya Prabhu comes here for a class. He's really busy. So if you have any more questions, please ask. Otherwise, if you have my number, please send it to me. I'll send it across to him. He can answer those queries. I don't see any more
Hare
questions.
Krishna, just one more thing. So,
Yes, Prabhu. I will.
if you could just send out some links to the group somehow, some, your contacts, your links and things, some suggestions, yeah, that would be great. Then we can obviously somehow connect up whatever things that you have. It'd be really great.
Sure, Prabhu. No, thank you, Prabhu. I'll send it to Santosh Prabhu. If anything, I think our rest is also shared on the group about the chat, Bhagavad Gita groups, which we do every evening. And also we are doing a program this evening at 5:30. I'll share the link with Santosh Prabhu, where we are inviting the families with the children to take part. Sitting at home from the Leicester congregation, you can distribute some sets to your neighbors through a Zoom call. We will be sharing all the materials. And as you distribute, share your results with Gurudas Prabhu. He's already in touch with BBT. He's going to be ordering this beautiful Bhagavatam sets which are coming, and your whole family can be engaged in doing the presentation of this wonderful Bhagavad. We did the presentation last week. The video is available. I'll share the link with Prabhuji. He can share it with you. But this evening we have a Q&A session after the video, and how the families with the children can make a team and distribute the Bhagavatams in Leicester congregation as well. So you're more than welcome to join. Gurudas Prabhu also has all the details already.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you. The last reflection I'll share before we end from Partha. Hare Krishna Prabhu, just sharing a realization. The point you shared about the Bhagavatam study and the book distribution is amazing. I know a devotee who sincerely read Bhagavatam at least 20 pages a day, not to be perfect, but read through. I can see Krishna is taking care of his life now. What an example. See, I wasn't lying. This process really works. If you dedicate your life to reading Srila Prabhupada books, you can't go wrong actually. So thank you everybody. Vancha kalpa tarubhyascha kripa sindhu bevacha patitanam pavnebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Leicester ki jai. Thank you so much everybody. Have a wonderful Krishna conscious day.
His Grace Divya Prabhu ki jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for a wonderful class.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you for the wonderful class.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, that's a wonderful class.
Divya Prabhu, Hari Bol, Manu Das here.
Hare Prabhu,
Fantastic
Hare
class.
Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah,
Hare.
Hari Bol, all Vaishnav, Danda Pranam.
So much.
Thank you Prabhuji. Thank you. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Divya Prabhu. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Bol, Karuna Chaitanya
Yeah,
Prabhu.
yeah,
So nice
yeah,
to see you,
yeah.
Prabhu. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you. Nice class.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna,
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, thank you. Hari Bol.
Hare Bol, Jai.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
What a wonderful class that was, Prabhu. And I know you are busy. Let's see when I catch you next.
Sure,
Um,
Santosh Prabhu, no problem.
I'll be in
Speak
touch
soon.
with you, Prabhu. Yes.
All
Thank
right.
you so
Hare
much.
Krishna, Prabhu.
We
Hare
really
Bol.
appreciate it.